Yo, you guys, this is Blacklist of the Abyss, and you are watching my review for the Irregular at Magic High School movie, The Girl Who Summons the Stars. Okay, Mahoka Koko no Ritose. Alright, this movie, I was looking forward to this movie a lot, because I wanted the second season, but I have to take what Madhouse gives me. Okay, and if Madhouse, I don't know if Madhouse is going to do a second season. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. This movie makes me think that they will because it actually takes place not just after the anime, but after arcs that are after the anime. Okay? The anime, if you recall, the anime ended with the Yokohama Disturbance arc. And after that is the Reminiscence arc, which is a flashback with Tatsuya and Miyuki, which kind of explains their whole dynamic and relationship and what happened in their past. That makes Miyuki so indebted to Tatsuya. Okay, so there's that arc, which is really important. Then there's the Visitor Saga that happens after that, which is one of the best arcs in the entire series, and that is the arc that introduces Angie Sirius, also known as Lena, who is obviously a character in this movie. She was all over the promotion for it, okay? And this movie takes place after both of those arcs. Okay, so Tatsuya and their friends, they already know Lena. They're already acquainted with her. They know her already. All right. So the fact that they would have the movie after those two really important arcs makes me think that they are at some point going to go back and adapt those arcs in the second season, especially since there were a couple other small flashback scenes that made reference to Sakurai, a character from the Reminiscence arc, which is again Tatsuya and Miyuki's flashback. Okay, so the fact that that stuff is being foreshadowed and they're essentially making you want to see these things, it makes me think that they are going to eventually adapt those two arcs as a second season. Okay. So hopefully we end up getting that. As for this movie specifically and its plot, essentially it's relatively simple. There's a terrorist group operating in Japan, and the Japanese military is not a fan of that, so they want to get Tatsuya involved to put a stop to it. But the terrorist group themselves are actually targeting a satellite that belongs to the U.S. or the USNA. Okay? So that gets Lena and Stars involved. Stars being the group that she operates out of and leads. Okay, the first part of this movie is okay. It's nothing special really. There are some character interactions. There's some fan service. That's mostly what the first part of this movie was. Okay, it wasn't anything special. It wasn't. If you like the characters, then you enjoyed it. But it was nothing to. It was just developing the story of the movie. That's it. You got to meet the new characters. You got to meet Kokoa, who is the girl in question. Um, you know, it's the first part of the movie was decent. It was all right. It was nothing special. Okay, the second part of the movie, that's what's good. Okay, the first part of the movie spent time developing the story, and reminding you the characters are, what their personalities are like, introducing characters like Lena and Kokoa, and kind of setting the stage for the second half of the movie. The second half of the movie is what fulfilled all of that stuff. Okay, that's where all the development ended up being taken advantage of, and it was essentially just this really cool magic display. Okay, Tatsuya and a few others, Erica and Leo, they go to stop this terrorist organization. Stars is also fighting a terrorist organization, but because their methods are completely different from Tatsuya and his group, the two groups end up clashing at one point. So we got a really good fight between Erica and Leo and two members of Stars, neither of which were Lena, but they're still really good. Okay. At one point, Jumonji showed up and he got involved in the fight. It was cool to see him use phalanx, because usually we've seen him use it defensively before, but he kind of turned it into an offensive type magic here. Not really, but kind of. It's still a shield, right? But he was using the shields offensively. Okay, so it was pretty cool to see. Mayumi, she had a little bit of a cameo here. Well, I shouldn't say that because she's not. She was one of the main parts of the first half of the movie. She moved the plot along. So her appearing wasn't a cameo, but she only really used magic once. That was it. So in that sense, it was a cameo. Her using magic. Okay. Um, there are a lot of people who use magic in this half of the movie, um, but there was only really one fight scene, like one legit fight, which is my main criticism of the movie. The seeing all of that, all those displays of magic and the great animation, it was just fun to watch, but only having one tried and true fight scene, I just thought it needed more. Um, because the magic displays that I'm referring to don't really refer to direct combat. Okay, like Miyuki, for example, she technically attacked the guy, but for the most part, she was using area of effect type magic and stuff like that. Tatsuya, even, he shot a few random people, but in reality, most of the magic he did was directed towards objects, buildings. He didn't. He used material burst once on an asteroid. Okay, so there was a lot of magic being used, a lot of displays of magic, but not all of them were in direct combat. It was really just Erika, Leo, Jumonji, and the two guys from Stars. Okay, Mikihiko got a little spotlight for like one spell. Angie Sirius, she used her strategic class magic once or twice, kind of twice, but really once. But like she tried to use it a second time. I should also mention I don't remember if the anime introduced the concept of strategic class magic, but this movie introduced it. If that was one of the things that was discussed a few times, strategic class magic. That was an important part of the movie. So if it wasn't introduced in later in the anime, it was introduced here. Um, so another reason that I think they might be adapting this Reminiscence and Visitor arcs in a second season, because why introduce the concept of strategic class magic if you're not going to do anything with it? They didn't. If they really wanted to, they could have done a movie that didn't involve Angie Sirius. Okay, they could have swapped out the U.S. for the Great Asian Alliance. They could have said like they could have had this terrorist group targeting the Great Asian Alliance. They could have brought in Liu Gonghu. They could like they could have done a lot of things. So they didn't need to bring in the USNA. They didn't need to bring in Angie Sirius, but they did, which makes me think there's a reason for that besides just fan service. Not fan services in like clothing wise, but like fan services and people who read the light novels wanted to see her, so they did that just to appease them. That's what I mean by fans. I've used two completely different definitions of fan service here, so I figured I would clarify it. But the first type of fan service in the first half of the episode, that involved a hot spring in own sense, so you can imagine what kind of fan service that was. But the Angie Sirius fan service was just her being there, people who wanted to see her getting a chance to see her animated and use her strategic class magic. Okay, but like I said, awesome displays of magic, even though there was only one true fight. I wish there were more than just that one fight, but the magic itself is just really cool to watch. Okay, so overall, this movie was enjoyable. Um, it really made me start thinking about that second season, and it made me really, really want to see that second season. That way I can see more of Angie Sirius, and I can see that flashback that they hinted at on two different occasions, okay, in the movie. I want to see it. Okay, I want to see it. Those two mini flashbacks actually inspired Tatsuya and Miyuki's actions in this movie. It was remembering that stuff that happened that made them decide, that made them strengthen their resolve and decide to actually act and take out this terrorist group and save the people that were being held hostage there. Okay, so I want to believe, I really want to see what is one of the best parts of the entire series get adapted. So maybe I'm just that's just blinding me, but I'm hoping that there's a second season that comes out of this. Truth be told, I am behind in the light novels. The last volume I read was like, I think I I think I read part of volume 14, but it had been a while. But there was a point where I just stopped reading it, not because I didn't like it, but because I just had other things to do, and I never got around to starting up again. So I decided that, you know what, I kind of forgot what happened, so I'm going to start rereading from volume 12, not 1. Not 1, there's no need to do that. Okay, but volume 12, which is right after the Visitor Saga, because I remember that stuff pretty well. It's just, uh, volume 12 is when the new school year starts, which is actually, that's actually when the movie ends. Okay, the movie ends and a little box appears on the screen that says that the new school year is starting. Well, the start of the new school year is where the 12th volume starts. Okay, so another thing that makes you think that they're gonna, not really, but another thing that leads you to believe that they might actually start adapting more of the light novels. It's a pretty popular series in Japan. It really is. So I would hope that it got adapted into another season. I think it sold pretty well. I think it did. I think the Blu-ray sold like 10,000 units per volume. That's pretty good. A lot of anime only get like 1,000. Okay, so I think that I like to think that it'll get a second season, maybe even a third. Okay, but yeah, one of the best parts of the series that I have seen so far. That's what I want to see get adapted. That's one of the big parts about this movie, just making you want to see more. Um, but overall, it's a very enjoyable movie. I give it a 7 out of 10. Okay, you got to see the characters you like be awesome, and well, if one thing I'll say is this movie wasn't really, there wasn't any real character development in the movie. The story, like I said, wasn't anything special. The character development, there wasn't really much of it other than like the 2 small flashbacks that give you a sense of what's there, plus they introduced Angie Sirius. But there wasn't really much character development. So if you went into this movie not liking the characters, if you go into this movie not liking any of the characters, this movie isn't going to change your mind. You're still going to not like them in the end. And if you don't like them going in, you're not going to like the first half of the movie, because the first half of the movie is watching them interact and reminding you why you liked them in the first place. But if you don't like them, it's just going to remind you why you didn't like them in the first place, okay? But the movie, I found it enjoyable because I do like the characters. I liked seeing the interactions. I liked the behavior of the characters. Just all of that kind of pairs together. I liked the animation. I liked the fight that we got. I liked watching those displays of magic. It was an enjoyable movie. So I will give it a 7 out of 10. And that's that, you guys. Rate, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at BlacklistOTA. And I will see you guys next time.